There is a video of Proff where he was talking about the stick, if you remember that video. And in the video he describes meeting certain pastors and someone who handed him this stick for like 2 months. And in that period he experienced business opportunities, monies he had never seen, and all kinds of things, all kind of life that he lived because of this occultic stick. And the stick was meant to get him to be initiated. And he says he spoke to one particular pastor who expressed interest in the stick, and it kind of fascinated him, and it only clicked to him after what they knew about the stick and what the pastor he was with knew about the stick. Now I want to talk about that video, but I want to talk about it from a certain angle. I don't want to talk about it to say, hey, there are these sticks and what. Yeah, we already know these things, right? But I want to talk about it on a certain angle. I'll play you the video, then I'll be back so that we don't get this twisted. There's something that gets missing. When I went to the interview with Keketso, I mentioned something about the changing nature of ritual. And I want to talk about that onto this one because I think this is a perfect example where this applies.
Ever since Alflukau saw my golden stick, he got so curious. He was mesmerized. One thing I realized about the sticks is that they have levels. Lukau has his own. And most of these, your prophets, who are affiliated to this occultic network, they all have some symbolic, so-called spiritual items, be it a ring, be it a neck piece, be it a golden walking stick, or anything else that you can think of, that you just find out of the ordinary. The dude was very, very much interested in knowing where I got that golden walking stick. I ended up realizing that the one that I had was not the normal one. If it was in the cognac range, it would probably be the XO. It was an automobile. Theirs would be a Toyota Yaris. And the one that I had would probably be the Bugatti or the Lamborghini, the Ferrari. Something like that. I'm just trying to make you understand the levels to these sticks and to these occultic, anointed materials. So he was very intrigued, and still his curiosity was getting him to do things that would probably make me open up to him and tell him that, listen, I got this stick from so and so, that. But the thing is, I did not even know what the stick is all about. I remember on this particular day, the dude even asked me, where did you get this stick? Do you know what it stands for? Oh, okay. We were actually out. I think it was a yacht cruise. Like I said, he tried by all means to understand. And he realized that I was not just giving out information freely because I had nothing to give out. The one that I had was probably the second or the third generation. And the one that Lukau has, and some of these your DDGOs have, are probably your 10th generation. And when I say the second or the third generation, I mean it's probably owned. Okay, I mean it's owned. It can only be owned by someone who is second in command or third in command from the top. That's how the hierarchy goes. So if we have a second generation, it means you are second in charge. If you have the third generation stick, it means you are third in command. If you have the 10th generation going down there, it means you are just one who is just part of the network. I just told him, nah, it's from one of my business partners. And for real, the guy was my business partner. We used to do business, so many businesses together. And yeah, he did open quite a lot of deals for me. He introduced me to big people, to big names.
So now that you've heard this, I want us to go back to something I mentioned. I mentioned a subject matter that I wanted to express it on 2 different episodes. The evolution of ritual practice. And you will see why this subject matter is more important. The subject matter of the rituals themselves and all these things, and you know what they are using and all these things, it's one topic. But the evolution is way more important. Why? This video will show you. You see, if you were to sit and only focus on the stick, for example, the example of which Proff is talking about here, you will have a problem because you will just go around looking for sticks. Okay? And then you might associate wrong sticks with with your occultic one or whatnot, all that. But you have to understand that ritual practice evolves in the practice in the public side. This is very important. It changes in the public side. So today, it can be a ring, an evil ring with globes here or whatever it is. Yeah, these rings are evil. Today, you shift over, you're like, hey, the sticks now as well. The sticks have something, they put something. Now we already know those things that they do that. We've had Sangomas also saying it. Now, before you know it, there's wristbands. They'll say wristbands, there's a wristband like this. Inside the wristband, it is made with this. They melted something, they poured oil when they were melting it, and then boom, they made you the wristwatch. Before you know it, you shift over necklaces. There are some necklaces that I've seen from certain pastors, very weird, and all that entire stuff. The point of this video is to remind you, it's never really the particular element. It's the principles of them. It's creating a centered power. If you focus on looking at rings, if you focused on looking at swords, when the swords were popular, and if you've focused on looking at staffs, when the staffs are now popular, if you focused on looking at any device that's near the pulpit that looks weird or anything like that, you will get deceived very easily, because I'm telling you, ritual evolves. Rituals evolved. There was a time where these rituals did not use the sticks because the sticks were not so much in manufacturing. The more accessible they become, they evolve into that. They evolve into that. We only saw old people with them and so forth. And so you have to understand it evolves into those things. Ritual evolves into those things. There's many things. They'll keep changing things. They'll change this. They'll change this. They'll change many things. There was the subject matter of men using women. Now there's this subject matter of the men on men, the lesbian relationship, occult contracts. I mentioned that on the previous episode with Kikitsu. So these things, just understand, it creates an evolution. The same way there was a period where Sangomas wanted nothing to do with God or anything. They just dismissed it. For the longest part, they just dismissed it. As time went on, they would include a version of God in their idea. No, the ancestors talked to God for us. Right? Then they left that now there are people who are initiated to become Sangomas who function with divination the same way Ubungoma does. You see, so now they get more entrenched into Christian practices, but while they are doing their own things. It's an evolution. If you don't learn the evolution it just means this: you have to remain vigilant. There's nobody that's going to warn you of every single little thing. At one point, they used to talk about all these things of people digging ritual things under the pulpit and whatnot, and all those things. Then when the ritual of the sex rituals came up, people were like, yo, this is bad. So the sex rituals became popular. That's what was talked about. That's what was all over the place. Now, it's not those rituals now that people are talking about. That's not the only thing that they point to. Now, there is a completely different one. Sex ritual, you go from sex ritual to things planted on the pulpit, you go to kids disappearing in churches, you go to several sick people that are claimed healed, And before you know it, they just all die all at the same time. You've seen those type of rituals. I've made videos about some of them, where several people all at the same time under this particular pastor who occupy similar positions all die within days or from each other, or whatever you may call it. Ritual practice evolves. It's never one thing. You remember that during the period of the Yellow Hammer, there was this cult that was known by Yellow Hammers and Worms. They used to say that the girls that would sleep with this man would die of worms and whatnot and all those type of things. Now you don't hear those things now. Are they no longer happening? We don't know. But now it's other things. They now take their underwears, they do this, the person will die mysteriously, the person will just go to sleep, they don't wake up. Now the rituals now involve car accidents, the whole car will flip and one person will die. Those type of things, they disguise it. Ritual practice evolves. It evolves. So if you are just sitting and looking at one thing, it creates a problem. There are people that are still looking for fingers. Hey, they'll raise this finger, they'll raise this finger. It's not, it's a little bit complex than that. Ritual practice evolves because it seeks to deceive while it's in the public eye. It raises itself in the public eye. That's why you had, the early 2000s, such a golden era of hearing about cults, because people who were in the cults were outright confessing it. Nowadays, it's here and there, but it's not that brazen. For example, Bob Dylan comes out and he says it. I signed a contract to do what I'm doing, and he does what he does to make me famous. Bob Dylan confessed himself. Katy Perry, Madame I Kissed a Girl, who was a Christian musician, she herself stood in the 2000s in an interview and said, it was not working, the Christian music was not working, so she sold her soul to the devil. She practically says it herself. Directly says it. 3-6 Mafia, who have said that they used ritual magic in their thing. I've never talked about that particular one. Maybe I'll bring it up one day. Outright themselves, they've said it themselves in interviews and so forth. Because those were things that they were accused of. And later on they came, we did that in our music. Yeah, we were into magic and all those funny things. So nowadays, it's a little bit more quiet. It's a little bit more silent. But back then, there was a lot of people that came out and made it known. Some people getting music from spirits to a point where you could play, especially the rock and roll era, you could play songs backwards and you will get a completely different message. Point is, ritual magic evolves. It evolves. And so we should be careful focusing on one thing, because it evolves. Tomorrow it will just be t-shirts. You wear this t-shirt. Remember, there was belts. There was all these things. Of course it was a specific thing, but apparently there is actually a ritual particularly attached to certain clothing items. Ritual evolves. You don't lean in on one thing and just think you know everything. It evolves, this thing, because it seeks to deceive and conceal itself in the public's eye.